Hey there everyone, and welcome to another Tower Heroes level guides. In this video we're going to look at the heal dungeons levels 3 to 6. So because this is the heal dungeons, it's meant to be where healers shine. And yeah, you definitely need them in every battle. You need probably 2 healers for each of these battles. If you only have 1 healer, you're going to have a really hard time. And in fact, I would say heal 3, this first level we're looking at, is probably the hardest level 3 dungeon of any of the types, if you're a brand new player. So don't be too disheartened if you can't do this first level that I'm showing here, but once you've got 2 healers, if you level your heroes up a little bit, you should be able to do it no problem. It's just a bit tight on the CP. So what you're mainly going to have is these 2 sides, as you can see. Sorry about the black, it was a bug at the time when I recorded this. So you got the 2 sides, and there is a constant mist draining your health. So heroes are dying off slowly, you really need the healers in there, and what's tricky for this level is trying to get down enough damage output in the heroes you put down and also the healers to support them, because that's just quite a few heroes you need to put out. You know, you've got to have at least 1 each side and then a healer for each of them, and then ideally you don't want 1 each side, you want 2 each side, so that's what, 6 heroes you need to put down. So it's a little hard to build up into that, and you know, there's not a whole lot you can do to like circumvent that. It's just like some cheap heroes that you can put down. Edwin's going to do a really good job because they are fire enemies. So yeah, as you can see, they're all Evo 1. They're like the low star heroes because it is possible with them. Perfectly fine with them. You just got to have the right technique and them to be, you know, just about strong enough. So I wait to place Edwin at the last moment. The reason is because if I placed him early, he'd just be randomly getting his health drained when he's not even doing anything. So I wait until those enemies come. Similar on the right hand side, I put Victoria down just when they land. Victoria's also going to be good here because she's a CP generator, but you can see both of their healths are going down pretty fast. So I put a healer down on the left. Edwin's going to be taking quite a bit of damage from enemies coming in. There's a lot more that comes on the left hand side than there does on the right. I put Silver down the right to help support Victoria. In hindsight, probably good to put a healer down first and then Silver, because that healer has a bad time trying to heal those up afterwards. But yeah, we've got a lot of enemies coming in on the left now, and only Edwin to deal damage to them. So it gets a little bit tight, but Edwin just about manages to do it before I place Canos. This is where it's tricky. You know, like I said, it's a little tough to get to this point, where now we're set up. We've got 2 attackers on each side with the healers to support them, and then, you know, it's going to do the rest of the battle here. So a defender down on the left hand side just to shield things up so Edwin doesn't have to block everything. There are a lot of enemies coming through there, so you know, if there's any point where there's more than 2 enemies coming through, they would go through Edwin. On the right hand side we've got some flying enemies that come in as well. You don't get any flying enemies on the left hand side, but you do on the right, so you really want it to be 1 melee attacker, 1 range attacker on the right hand side, with the healer supporting them. But that's it for this level. Good luck with it. I hope you manage it when you're new to the game. Going into Heal 4, so this and kind of the, Heal 5 and Heal 6 as well, they don't have the mist anymore. There's no more draining health, but the enemies are explosive. Now, the way the enemies are explosive, it's not quite as bad as the experience dungeons, where there's like groups of enemies that are coming in that are all explosive, that you really have to be worried about it. This is more, I guess, because it's all about the healers, it's like just sporadic, random enemies that will explode. So they're just chipping off the health of your heroes, so you need a healer there to keep your heroes topped up. So you don't have to actually space your heroes out lots for them to survive. You can still have them together, you need that healer there supporting them. So the setup I've gone with, you can see I've only used 5 heroes in this battle. In fact, you don't need to use Roland. I probably should not have used Roland because this is meant to be a guide and, you know, showing like the lower star heroes and stuff. This is actually perhaps even easier than Heal 3 because everything gets channeled into this 1 row in the middle, and you can put a defender there and then other stuff facing that defender and a healer for them, and that's kind of, you know, going to do the job. So the only thing to worry about is on the bottom. There was an enemy, which I've gone past it now, but that enemy does like range attacking, so you need to make sure that the hero which is like closest to that bottom row is your defender, because that will then tank those attacks. If you put something that's a bit squishy close to that, or something that's not being covered by the healing, it's going to get wiped out pretty nastily. So Remus does a good job here of taking down those enemies, gives you enough time to save up for putting down Velka, and then these 2 guys are just going to do an excellent job. So you can see there's some explosive enemies coming in here. I didn't bother going with a healer yet. I put another damage dealer down, and then, okay, we've got a couple of explosive enemies there, but my heroes, they're not really close to death yet. They need that healer coming in. So the healer now heals them up. I think perhaps, maybe it's this one or the next one, I can't remember which one it is, that like would benefit from a second healer. So for example, this range attacker that I put in, I could maybe have put in a second healer, and then, you know, really made them like tank up in that place, and then I could put something next to Roland to the left of that, looking down, that's another melee attacker. And then, you know, we get some more damage dealing in that area, then more covered by the healers. As you can see, the ranged enemies on the bottom row attacking Velka, like I said, you want the closest hero to that to be your tanky one that's being healed, so it tanks through that nicely. We get some tougher enemies coming through, like this big guy, and I use skills to kind of kill him off before he started dealing damage to my heroes. Now we get a bit of a crunch point where there's lots of enemies coming through, and my heroes do get hurt quite a bit, but this is where you have the skill on the healer. In fact, I didn't even bother using it because we managed to tank our way through. I think it's perhaps near the end here. I mean, maybe I'm thinking about the next level, where it gets a bit tight on the health of my heroes, and I just use the healer skill basically. But yeah, they tank through it all. No, maybe it must be the next level because we've only got a few more enemies. But yeah, as you can see, this setup gets through them really nicely. Not too much trouble here. The next level I think is perhaps similar but a little bit tougher. So for heal 5, it switches elements, so they're now nature enemies coming through, so you will have to use different heroes, but it's a similar setup. It's just that we've now got the top row as well. So Lee Zen is just perfect for the top row because they are explosive hounds that come along that row. So Lee Zen can kill them when they're out of range of when she's out of range of the explosion. So she's not going to be affected at all. She's just going to like completely cover that. You don't have to give her any support. If you don't have Lee Zen, you will have to maybe put a bit more effort up there. You might need to put a healer on the like some fire attacker that's up there. But yeah, that'll be depending on your collection. At the bottom, we've got similar kind of stuff going on. I do the same kind of thing, except we switched from Velka and Remus to Felwyn and Scarlet. And then I used Carl to damage support. He's actually in that position, so... okay, I should say one thing. The last battle I put a healer at the top, and it was like healing down from there. However, if you put a healer at the top with this setup, you'll notice that the explosive hounds going on the top, they're going to explode on the healer. And that's not going to be good for the healer, because the healers are very squishy. So instead, I flipped it to have the healer at the bottom, and then because the healer would get attacked by the range enemies coming in along the bottom, I've put Carl there to tank in place of the healer. So those range enemies are going to hit Carl instead, and Carl is very tanky for this, so he's going to survive it. Anyway, looking at the heroes, I've got some slightly higher level stuff here, but I'm not really using the high level stuff. I only used a few heroes to do this. I think, if you've got the right technique, it's actually not too bad at all. It's kind of funny because heal 3 was like quite tricky, and then we've got like heal 4 and 5 that I don't think they're that hard. I think you can, build in this way, and it kind of gets through the battle quite nicely. So we get explosive enemies fairly early at this point. Might be at the same kind of time as last time. You can see they're doing a bit more damage than last time. I think when I was mentioning in the last clip that like it gets a bit tight at some point. It wasn't that one. It was in fact this level. Oh yeah, Carl's skill has a bit of a funny pink animation at this point. It was bugged. So the enemies at the top come at this point at like 42 enemies left. Lee Zen, like you see, she's just gonna like one-shot them. They're going to do a really good job up there. And then we've got explosive enemies at the bottom as well. So there are more explosive enemies than before. But like I said, it's not like massive groups that we got in the Hero Experience dungeons. In fact, I haven't put a defender down yet. I wonder why. I'm kind of letting everything stack up. I've got like loads of CP. But yeah, at some point I'll put a defender down. And it was Felwyn, I think, wasn't it? Maybe I was trying to see if I could do it with just 4 heroes. But yeah, so some of these enemies are a little bit stronger. Those ones that were coming in on the bottom, these big guys, it was this big guy that I wanted to, put the defender down for, because Victoria wouldn't do a brilliant job against it. And you can see it's getting a bit tight on the HP. Felwyn getting quite close to death there, but there was a nice break where there are no enemies, which she could get healed up in. My CP is almost at 99. Yeah, you could put a lot more heroes down if you wanted, and, do a better setup for this. But in fact, one thing you could probably do is you could put Lee Zen one space to the right and then put a healer from the top, because Lee Zen wouldn't be killing the explosive enemy right by the healer. But anyway, that's just a thought in hindsight. So now we've got heal 6. This is a fun one. And sorry again for the black patches all over the map. Yeah, bad time to record footage for this. But anyway, this is kind of complicated and tricky, and when I first started trying to do the level, I was doing it incorrectly. The correct way, as you can see, all my heroes on the right hand side. I haven't bothered doing any on the left hand side, because in the middle of the map, I know it's a little bit tricky to see because there's darkness and stuff, but there are barriers coming in, and there's like one little passage where the enemies can come through. So that is like the sort of pinch point where you can get all the enemies to come through, and you can kill them as they come through, come out the other side. So along the top, there's like a kind of route which the range enemies take, where they go along the top, they go down in a loop, in a little sort of U shape, and then go on the top on the other side. I don't know if you could follow my finger the whole way there, but those are a massive pain if you try and build on the left hand side. If you build on the right hand side, instead what's going to happen is they're not going to attack at all until they're coming through the central point, and you can kill them off just like any other enemies. That's basically the main reason why you should do it this way, and it's a lot easier if you do it this way. So what you then want is a bunch of stuff that's going to attack them as they come through. So you can see I've got Roland, you know, just best water damage dealer at their entrance. So he's going to hit them as they come past. I've then got Chandra behind because she's got the range too, so she can attack in. You could even do Chandra and then Lee Zen behind there. So you've got 3 heroes all hitting that first point where they come out. And then basically a healer at the top, healer at the bottom, facing inwards. And I put down 2 defenders because they're going to tank nicely, while Roland can actually even hit any enemies on them. And the only enemies which come through and then go on the top row bit, which bear in mind you can't actually place any heroes along in that U shape, that is the range enemies that come through there. But they'll get killed off as they come through, so that's fine. And then I've got a damage leader Arctis down at the bottom just for good measure. So that was enough talking there. Let's see, I mean, I basically kind of explained the whole thing. In terms of the levels of my heroes, Roland's up at Evo 3 for this, which means he's going to do awesomely. Roland is obviously just going to carry us through this one. But if you don't have Roland, you can probably do it with some water damage dealers, and perhaps switch the defenders for some better damage dealers, where they're going to sit there and be healed up, so they'll survive through it. I believe they're explosive enemies. I can't remember which ones the explosive enemies are. They're probably the dogs that come down through the middle here. We'll see. Does this explode? It does not explode. Okay, I don't know what the explosive enemies are. But yeah, you can see Roland doing an amazing job, as expected. We're going to put a healer down, and these 2 heroes are going to do a good job killing off the enemies as they come through to begin with. But, I mean, using this technique, it shouldn't take too much brain power to like figure out what can I do to kill off the enemies as they come through this one single point. Yeah, you can put your damage dealers down facing that kind of zone that the enemies are coming through, and yeah, kill them as they come through. So yes, I'm not really much more to say about it, to be honest, because I've said everything already. I guess I'll talk for a second and just say that so what I'm going to be doing with these level guides is I'm going to finish off the dungeons. There's like a few more hero type dungeons, and then there's the armories, which are like for the equipment. I'm going to do them, and then I'm going to do chapter 4. I've got everything recorded already, but it's just taken me like many months to get around to. I got full-time employment recently, and also like various other things that have just taken up my time at weekends, so it's been hard to actually get around to it. But anyway, thanks for sticking with me and waiting for these level guides. I hope they're useful. And we're rounding up this video with the last few enemies. So yeah, I hope this one was useful and that you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the videos soon.